So the next ones now, they're going to give us the coordinates and tell us which quadrant we're in, and they want us to find the x or the y value. So again, on my coordinates, the x is the cosine, so the adjacent over the hypotenuse. The y is the sine, so opposite over hypotenuse, kind of like on those previous ones we had. So what we want to do is sketch this. We have a point in quadrant 2, so it goes this way. And we know what the sine is, so we know the opposite side and the hypotenuse. So the opposite side, we're always going from this angle here. The opposite side is 7, the hypotenuse is 25. We need to find that other side by using our Pythagorean theorem. We know that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And so we know that 7 squared plus b squared equals 25 squared. B squared is then going to equal 25 squared minus 7 squared. So 25 squared minus 7 squared gives me 576. So B is going to equal the square root of 576. And so B equals 24. So since this was B squared, I had to do the square root of my value there to get just plain B. Now this is going backwards on my x-axis, so instead of being 24, it's actually going to be a negative 24. And so x then is going to be equal to the adjacent over the hypotenuse, that negative 24 over 25 then. So on number 11, now we have the point 725 and y. It's a coordinate in quadrant 4. So down here, we know the first value, which is the cosine, the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So the adjacent is 7, the hypotenuse is 25, and again, we'd have to find that missing side. Well, again, 7 squared plus b squared equals 25 squared, which we did on the previous one. So b squared equals 25 squared minus 7 squared. B squared is going to equal 576, so the square root of 576 is going to give us 24 again. And again, this one is going down, so that's actually going to be negative 24. So our value for y is going to be the opposite over the hypotenuse, the opposite side, negative 24 over 25 then. And number 12, same kind of thing, at least they gave us different numbers. This time we have a point that is on quadrant 2. So in quadrant 2 we have our first value. Our first value is our cosine, so our adjacent side is negative 12. Our hypotenuse is 13. Your hypotenuse is always positive. So if you have the sine or the cosine, the negative is going to have to go with the top because the hypotenuse is always positive. And then again, we have to find that missing side. So negative 12 squared plus b squared equals 13 squared. B squared is going to equal 13 squared minus my negative 12 squared. And you know when we square that negative, it's going to become a positive. 13 squared minus my negative 12 squared, make sure you use the parentheses, is 25. B squared equals 25, so the square root of 25 is 5. This side is going up, so it should be a positive 5. And then we are finding the y value. The y value is the opposite over the hypotenuse, so the opposite over the hypotenuse, 5 over 13. So basically we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem to find our missing side so that we can figure out what our other point should be in our reference triangles. And again, keep in mind when you draw that reference triangle, it always goes down or up to the x-axis. So if my angle was in quadrant 4 like this one, I draw it up. So in quadrant 3 I go up. Quadrant 1 and quadrant 2 I go down to draw my reference triangle.